Barrister Ben Muna appears to have placed himself in the verbal firing line of critics after advising his Anglophone brethren to shelve all hopes of independence and rather concentrate their efforts on clamors for federalism. Elsewhere, keen observers of Cameroon's socio-political evolution should agree without much ado that the country is not only loaded but heavily pregnant with unresolved troubles. After Anglophone lawyers, teachers, doctors, and dockers, among others, it was the turn of a small contingent of soldiers battling Boko Haram in the country's far north to take to the streets at the weekend in protest against what they termed to be poor pay and poor working conditions. These and lots more will come under the Tough Talk spotlights in this edition. Kindly stay on with us. And of course, the Tough Talkers are here as usual. Ellie Smith, welcome back from your sick bed.
Thank you very much.
But you're doing fine anyway?
Yes, I am.
That was just a note to our viewers that you have not been feeling fine all these days. Kejan Henry, it's a pleasure to see you once
Thanks
again.
very much. Good day to you and to televiewers.
You spent the weekend and most of yesterday morning the passing to the world beyond of veteran journalist Zachary Nkwo.
Yes, of course, it's not been very easy to condone his passing on to the world beyond, especially as all of us had him at heart. Always busy on the social media trying to know what is happening, feeding people with information. Because the first information that I sent out on Saturday about his state of health, so many people had to get to me, so I need to give them more information about the man Zachary Nkwo.
Thanks for informing the world about this sad event. Let's now get on to our icebreaker for this edition. On the sidelines of what observers deem a slight respite in the 8-month-long Anglophone crisis, Ben Muna, lead counsel for the detained protest leaders, has advised his English-speaking brethren to forget about independence and rather concentrate on clamors for federalism. Ellie Smith, how do you react to such a call, such an advice?
I think that the first time I met with Bernard Muna, I think was 1998 at his home in Bastos.
In Yaoundé.
In Yaoundé, he had the same assertion that he was not trying to rule out independence completely, but he said it's going to be difficult. And I think this thing, we should not put passion in it. If he talks about return to federalism, which means there is a return to two-state federalism, which is not a bad thing. You know, we are living in a world today whereby groups are entities are regrouping. There won't be anything bad as if the spirit of the 1961 Federation Treaty is respected. I want Cameroon to become a federal state whereby we have our prime minister, our national team, we take care of the
When you say we, you are talking about
Southern Cameroon.
The former Southern Cameroon.
Exactly.
Current northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon.
I don't think people should just try to, or whenever Bernard makes an error or say something, it is not an error.
Okay.
I think he said it's cool-headed reflection.
Of course, some may say he has the full right to his opinion, Kejan Henry, but many consider the pronouncement contained in the Guardian Post of Monday as a fishy and suspicious U-turn.
It should not be a fishy or suspicious U-turn, especially as he is defending in fact, is the lead defense counsel of the proponents of this form of government. So it is not fishy at all. He meant his word, and that is buttressed on the foundations of what was concocted in Fumban that was violated or raped subsequently or along the line or along the course of history. So it is not a coincidence. I think he meant his word, and just like Eli was saying, he has a right to his opinion, and it must be looked into. Why not, based on that, to craft out new political policies for the country? Okay,
we are currently seeing images of the detained Anglophone protest leaders. It's not an error. It's because Ben Muna is lead counsel for the protest leaders, including especially Agbo Bala Nkongo Felix and Dr. Fontem Neba, Bixi Manso, and 25 others. But let's come back to Ben Muna and his pronouncements recently. This is the son of the former House Speaker Solomon Tandeng Muna. He says that the reason he rules out independence is because it will take a war, a full-scale conflict waged by the former Southern Cameroons against La République, and on top of everything, victory for independence to come its way.
Yes, it is true. Because I think the problem is that people have this fixation on the fact that he is the progeny of Solomon Tandeng Muna.
And so, like father, like son, traitors?
Well, I don't think they're traitors. I want to believe that Solomon Tandeng Muna is or was a politician.
Okay.
And he had his own ambition. At the end of the day, we are human beings. We commit mistakes. He committed an error and then he apologized. I think going back to the two-state federation is not a crime. And then there's another thing also, another twist that perhaps the Guardian perhaps did not want to say it, or, well, they was just trying to deliver what he said. You know, he's a lead counsel to this group of people who have been arrested or who are still in detention, accused on fallacious grounds. What if
actually charged with terrorism,
secession, whatever? What if he comes in an interview and says he is for the separation of Anglophone Cameroon? Then they will say, great.
You as lead counsel of these people?
For these people. So, all right, so this is conspiracy, so this is what you're planning. I think, no, it is a tactical way of speaking. Then I also think that we should need to understand that we are entitled to our opinions. If the Cameroon government had respected the spirit of 1961 Fuman Constitution, we would not be where we are today. But we also have to understand that independence is enshrined in the heart of every human being on earth. Everybody wants to be independent.
Keja Henry, Barrister Ben Muna adds that even if war broke out to end in independence, which means passing through victory for English-speaking Cameroonians, it would never happen because English-speaking Cameroonians lack the resources to go to war.
Yes, when you talk about resources, or if he talks about resources, that would mean, I'm talking about the arsenals, the military arsenals. But then what is a war? If you move into the different definitions as given by different dictionaries or encyclopedia, there are different approaches to war. There are holy wars that have been fought. There have been spiritual wars that have been fought, or spiritual battles. There have been civil rights movements that are resistant movements, and all these which at the end will bear fruit. You can have sporadic, sporadic dealings with minor weapons or arms or whatever. But then the absence of that arm or the arsenals might not necessarily mean that a people cannot win a battle if at all they engage in it, with their heart. Because it's a matter of, your conscience. If it becomes a resistance movement, as we've known in other parts of the country, though resistance movements have hard to do with arms, but it becomes difficult. Nobody preaches anyway for such a thing to happen. Because civil rights disobedience and so on that we've known in the US, though that was not the issue, if known in India, those things did not use, they did not need arms to conquer.
Okay. Now, commenting on the likely conditional release, and that's why we were showing you pictures of the detained protest leaders a moment ago, Ellie Smith, commenting on their likely conditional release or release on bail on June the 7th, which is hours away from now. Barrister Muna says it would be irrational for only Barrister Agbo and Dr. Fontem to be freed, because they are conjointly being tried alongside 27 others, including Bibik Simancho.
He is through and through correct. Because at the beginning of this trial, which was not needed, they were the ones who decided to merge everybody together.
You mean the Yaoundé military tribunal?
The Yaoundé military tribunal. Now, what makes them to decide at the end to want to divide them?
That's discriminatory dispensation of justice.
Discriminatory dispensation of justice. And I also think that they are also trying to elongate a crisis for nothing. Perhaps the idea behind it is to create a kind of rift within the movement, On the contrary, if they do that, if Agbobala and Fontem are released, all what they have been clamoring for will be watered down, because people already, there is social media is already functioning, operational, claiming that, which is not true, because I don't want to believe they can do such a thing, that they have been bought over.
Okay.
So I think Muna is absolutely correct to claim that releasing both of them and allowing the rest in detention will be irrational.
Okay, Keja Henry, and I'm just queuing in from Eli's last words. According to the barrister, those advising Agbobala and Dr. Fontem to reject any conditions for their release or conditional release or release on bail, if you don't mind, are motivated by selfish interest designed to fan the flames of their own ambitions.
Good.
Which is selfish.
Yes, and from the beginning, even the Social Democratic Front National Chairman Nijon Fundiat earlier on said in one of his outings that there are those who believe or who want this crisis to protract so that they can reap financial benefits from it.
Okay.
And so it's very clear that those who are behind, funding the crisis to continue, advising them not to accept certain conditions, probably want to reap from it.
Okay.
But rapidly, let me just say something. Eli said on the what you asked on the separate judgment that we're going to pass. But I listened to the report of a jurist with CRTV, Achunyanti, a very tricky one that rekindles some glimmer of hope for their imminent release and be placed on
of the 28th
of tomorrow.
You mean, I mean the release of all the 28 or only
the report? No, not on the 28. Good. On the tricky way that the judiciary, because a rich report, understand, but that rekindles hope for an eventual freedom. But don't forget
I mean
that
freedom for all or freedom for part of things.
Well, if you could read between the lines, it could be freedom for the two and freedom for all. And I already start saying it because just last week, some were released, which means that others,
those who went to Jakiri and were received like when
like
Jesus Christ came to Jerusalem
that is
2,000 years ago.
Good, divine. That is a glimmer of hope that the others too might be released. Who knows? But tomorrow, I fear that, tomorrow I'm talking about the 7th of June, I fear that there might still be another adjournment pending the release of the others, and then finally there will be the finals of the final ones to be released at the end of it.
Okay, so now reactions on whether or not the protest leaders should reject or accept conditional bail have been trickling from within and beyond Cameroon. In the following excerpt, a Sierra Leone-based Cameroonian national, a lawyer indeed, shares his thoughts under the canopy of anonymity. We tried to bring you this feed last week, it didn't work, and hopefully this time around it's going to be good. I want to imagine we're having a bit of problems once again, but I think we should have the feed. It's a Cameroonian lawyer based in Sierra Leone who says he will only speak to us on condition of anonymity. Hear him. Apparently, we cannot have that feed at this point in time, but Eli Smith, the statements by the barrister have virtually placed him in the firing line of Anglophone cause hardliners. Some say, well, he's a great one traitor, like his dad.
No,
I asked you this a couple of
minutes ago. He's not a traitor. I think Muna has said it abundantly clear a number of times. Yes, he's the son of Solomon Tande Muna, I cannot refute. He has said it that most often the decisions that his father took were decisions that he as a person never approved. He never supported it. Now he is doing a great job standing as a lead counsel to these Anglophones who are in detention. It's really a sacrifice that he's doing. For people to call him names simply because he has voiced his opinion shows that those people are not Democrats. You know, if you're a Democrat, you need to accept contradictory views.
Okay.
He has a right to his opinion, and I support what he's saying, or I think he's right to say what he's saying. And there's something he said: to begin a conflict is too much. the sacrifice is going to be enormous.
Okay.
Do we need to spill more blood because we want to achieve something? There are many ways to catch a mouse.
Don't necessarily pass into the
Through
tail.
yes. So I think that if we want independence, which will eventually come what may, there are many ways that Anglophones can achieve the independence in this country, because the union in itself is a deceptive one. It has not been good for the Anglophones, and there's no right-thinking Anglophone man in this country or woman who can say there's anything good that they have reached in unification with French Cameroon.
Let's glide out of this, and I'll be doing that with you, Henry Kejan-Atembe. Some schools of thought opine and proceed that any such pronouncements can only emanate from someone whose family has reaped considerable benefits from the successive Ahidjo and Biya regimes.
Yeah, that should be a mistake, because if you look at those big families that have been managing the world, you will not say whatever thing George Walker Bush is doing is because his father had set the base for the family.
Okay.
George came, took over, the father ruled, George came, and Jeb too was on the same track. If he had won, probably they would say because the father and the big brother were there. But it's a happy coincidence in history. We have other big names, the big family names like the Fonchas. We don't hear them make noise. I'm not saying that what he said is making noise. We have other families that they reap, but he is an independent mind. Don't forget, coming from the liberal profession, you might say whatever thing you want to say, but I think he's standing his grounds and probably want to right the wrongs of history.
Okay, I think on that note, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be going to Yaoundé to meet Christian Ga, who's publisher of the Guardian Post. In fact, we actually got to read Ben Muna's interview in that paper. We'll be back in a jiffy. Thanks for coming back to us. We'll be going out to Yaoundé or Bamenda or Yaoundé, I'm not very sure. But our producer Emmanuel Bevirika and Donald Njilo are going to tell us in the next couple of minutes. Are we going to Bamenda or is it Yaoundé?
Yaoundé.
Hello?
Christian.
Hello, Christian Ga. Oh, thanks for coming online. We actually announced you a couple of seconds ago and we got scared you probably would not be online. The question is, well, congratulations for the good job you're doing. First of all, we read the Ben Muna interview in the Monday edition of the Guardian Post. Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Now, what did he not tell you apart from what we all know, that Anglophones should shelve their clamors for independence and rather work towards a federation? Did he hide anything from you?
Well, I tried to force him to say something. As you saw in that interview, he's still like that. There is no court in the world that can force the UN to reopen the case of Cameroon's unity state. And he thinks that the bigger thing for the Anglophone can do for now is to put more pressure on the Biya regime for return to federalism. And that, in his opinion, the issue about Southern Cameroon independence is an illusion.
Okay, now do you think he placed himself in the bad books of Anglophone hardliners, you know, those who are calling for a split up?
No. There is a difference between clamoring for something and, you're clamoring for something, but you have to also ask yourself, if I can read his mind,
Yes.
Ben Muna is a renowned legal luminary, and
Right.
if you put what he said. There is a difference between clamoring for something and having it. I mean, the possibility of having it. Like he pointed out, the only other option if Anglophones will want to force their independence is by going to war. And like the question, do they have the army? Do they have the money that can sustain a liberation war? And so he said, well, for him, it is not feasible, the issue of the Southern Carolina independence. And like he pointed out, even in the next 100 years, he said he doesn't see it happening. I mean, from the explanation he gave, I think there's some reason to believe in. The extremists can agitate, they can call him names, but we know that truth is always bitter whenever it is true. And so I think, in my opinion, it is left for the extremists to pick up the crumbs from what Belmuna said and see how they can reassert themselves as Cameroonians, even if the what they may get out of it is I'm looking the regime to initiate a return to a two-state or why not four-state solution.
In other words, and this is, I want your take on this, your personal take on this, Mr. Nga Christian. Do you think, from what I hear you say, that all of the ongoings, I mean, all of the endeavors towards, for those who are actually advocating for the country to be split up, do you think they've been wasting their time up until now? Is that your conclusion?
I won't say they've been wasting time, but I think they wasted more time trying to get what, chasing the shadow. That is my opinion.
Okay.
So the real issues are on the ground. They're not talking about the issues that can actually materialize. They're trying to, give the impression that it's going to be a paradise, which, in my opinion, I don't see it happening soon.
Okay.
So the issue for me is that Anglophones should press for a better living condition. They should press for a equitable sharing of the national cake. They should press for the respect of their cultural values,
All right.
cultural, political, and social values, which, as they say, and which of course can be back that is being gradually eroded by the French system. Rather than, even the issue of return to federalism, we all know that it is not this regime that will grant that. I don't know at what cost that will be granted, if at all it will be granted, but I don't see it happening soon. So, like I pointed out, we should rather focus on issues that would need us truth, rather than, first of all, I want to say that those we call extremists, they live out of this country, they are too far away from reality, and one of the things they say is actually, like Muna said, it will, for their own benefit, because it will sound to me like some people are using this struggle to reach themselves, and already, if you look at the infighting among them, you can already tell that there is more to it than meet the eye.
Thank you so very much, Nga Christian. Thanks indeed. We'll have to leave it here and probably come back to you in another edition of Tough Talk. Thanks once again for sharing your thoughts with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right now we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be delving into another major talking point. And of course, this time around, it would be anger at the war front. We'll be back. So now, keen observers of Cameroon's socio-political evolution would readily agree, Kejan Henry, that the country is teetering on the brink of something that sounds uncomfortable. After doctors, after Anglophone lawyers and teachers, after dockers, among others, it was the turn of soldiers, a small contingent of less than 50 soldiers, to take to the streets. They actually blocked the road between Kuseri and Marwa in the far north to protest poor pay and poor working conditions. Are we safe?
We are not safe, Tarki Divine, because when an army starts agitating, it becomes very difficult for a country. What we don't understand is why were they agitating? Can they tell us the real story? It is true. Can we say this is a mutiny? That is another question we should be asking ourselves. Was it a criminal conspiracy? I doubt, because it is a handful of soldiers. We don't know the exact number of soldiers. They have not been able to give us the exact number of soldiers.
Okay.
Which is different from what we observed in, for example, Cote d'Ivoire, where there were more than, that was a whole regiment. In fact, more than 200 soldiers, or like it happened in Eritrea. But I think this is a hand of a few who could have the courage to come out and say we are poorly paid or we need better working conditions, etc., etc.
All right. Now, you were asking a couple of questions out there, Henry. I think I have one answer for you, because the information I have, Ellie Smith, is that these men were demanding that their pay and bonuses be equalized or matched to what their colleagues have been earning for peacekeeping in the Central African Republic under the canopy of the United Nations mission, of course. It is only fair. For me, the guys combating Boko Haram are placing their lives at a far more higher risk than those keeping the peace in the CAR. They should get more.
Well, I don't think that those in the CAR. CAR is it's very risky as well. The thing is that from the investigation I carried out was that when this multinational task force was created, they had the support of some international organization, especially the African Union. The pay there is high as $1,200.
Okay.
Whereas for the Cameroonian army, already there is a dichotomy within the Cameroonian armed forces between the elite unit, the Rapid Intervention Brigade, and the regular army.
Well, that's a special elite unit of the army.
So there's a kind of dichotomy already. But now it has been worse. The thing has taken another dimension simply because those working with the multinational tax force are more paid, but their salary for a while has not been paid, because most of those international bodies are now trying to withdraw themselves, especially the African Union, because of economic crisis. Those who are paying are not able to pay. I think that's the reason why they went on that a kind of mutiny. Those who were courageous went and blocked the streets, so that the cars in between Kuseri and Marua, basically,
right.
Because those soldiers are Cameroonians attached to the multinational task force.
Which means they are on international assignment, just like their colleagues in the CAR.
In the CAR. The problem now is that their money, just as what happened in the CAR, has not been paid. Hence, they got up and they were angry and asking for their money, salaries to be paid. And the Cameroon Ministry of Defense, the discharge to the Cameroonian government is that they cannot afford to pay that amount of money, because already Cameroon is bankrupt. So the Cameroonian government cannot. What the Cameroonian government can do is a 2,000 francs per day salary or allowances plus 30,000 francs, which I think is for the B or the Rapid Brigade. That is what the Cameroon government can afford. But to pay $1,500, $1,200, they cannot. But it is a sign that there is a problem within the Cameroonian army and the country in general.
It's fair what you say, that the Cameroonian army cannot. But I think that's your point of view, because this situation, Henry Keja, mimics, like you said a minute ago, mimics the recent occurrences in Cote d'Ivoire. But it also comes about 2 years after over 200 soldiers poured out into the streets in Yaoundé. They are returned from the CAR and are not received their pay. But almost instantaneously, and that's where I want us to lock horns, Ellie Smith,
yes.
President Paul Biya instructed the immediate disbursement of 6 billion CFA francs.
For their payment.
Yeah. Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Come on, Ellie.
All right. What I can say is that 2 years ago, you rightly said.
That was exactly on September the 9th, 2015.
2015. Then the Cameroonian government still pretended to have some cash. As we speak now, this country is almost bankrupt, like most countries within the CEMAC region. What is holding us or putting us on our feet currently is because we have a resilient informal sector. The minister, the Motaze, has gone to Saudi Arabia, I think, I forgot the days, cap in hand, begging for money. So if the Cameroon government reacted then when you had 200 men on the street, it is normal, we're 200. Here you have a handful. And they did it because they had the money. If now those guys were wanting their money and the Cameroonian government acquiesced to pay $1,500 or $1,200 of back payment, which means that the amount can be enormous, and the Cameroonian government cannot withstand that. We have crisis in the West Cameroon, we have problems in the East Cameroon, we have a merry-go-round of strikes. I don't know who is going to strike again, and the government will not be able to have money to pay.
So, if you don't mind, yes, Henry. If you don't mind, let's take you back in time, the lanes of memory, to revisit the occurrences in Yaoundé on the 9th of September 2015. This was not Tough Talk, it was actually Newsroom. Watch keenly, because when we come back, we'll be asking the question, did the decision by the head of state, who also doubles as chief of the armed forces, was it a blunder? Could it become contagious? Here we go. So before we go to the machines, Henry, I don't know who had the last take on that.
Yeah.
Was it a blunder for the president to instruct the payment of 6 billion? Is it something that can become contagious?
It was a blunder, and no, it is a matter of survival of the fittest. Because if the man doesn't do that, he has already ruined the country. He doesn't have any ounce of reputation. The last bulwark of his corrupt regime are the soldiers, the army. If they now go down the street at the wind, and he doesn't put his hands into his pocket, then he's on the line. So it was a blunder, because now other corps of this army who are badly paid, like those fighting the north, are not being paid, and they are lying on CRTV every day, who also want to do the same thing.
So in other words, those are seeds that could germinate anywhere.
Yes,
Henry,
and
before you step in,
yes,
I thought I should ask you this question.
Come on.
Some say the slightest irritation within the ranks of the army is a source of huge disturbance for the President of the Republic, which means he is going to bankroll the army to be stable, because for as long as he maintains them at his beck and call.
That is, he is the commander-in-chief, so he is their boss, and at every point in time, he has every reason to satisfy them.
Would you agree that the greatest threat to the President of the Republic, as we speak, resides in the army?
The greatest threat to any president in Africa is the army.
Especially dictatorship like that of Cameroon.
The greatest threat to any president in Africa is the army.
Okay.
Yeah, but in a purely democratic country, the greatest threat is the people, and the greatest threat is the ballot. So, but then we talk, and sometimes we forget what should be happening down south, or south the other way, because don't forget
down
that
south. Can you be precise about down south?
The fight in the sea is permanent.
The fight against piracy?
Against piracy is permanent. So you can understand that we don't know how those other ones are paid, because apart from being the regular army, that is the Navy, plus a detachment of the B, because they are there at the Man-O-War Bay, we don't know how they are faring. Not until when a few disgruntled ones will come up. Now look at the other part of it at the base in Bisongabang, and look at the base there at in the northwest region. So are they happy? That is the question. Okay. Could they be saying this other way, that okay, it is good what those other guys up there have done, probably it will salvage a situation or our own situation down south or down southwest or northwest? So it's a matter of those who did it had the courage to do it and say, okay, they're going to bear the brunt.
Okay.
But don't forget that they were doing it because, or they are doing it because they have a family that is dependent on them. They cannot feed their families. And when you're at the war front, your psyche is not balanced.
Okay.
I don't think you can do any good job.
Well, reading between the lines of your comments, I can conclude that what you intend to say is that there are more soldiers than the over 30 we saw on the streets between Kuseri and Marwa clapping. Because these boys actually exposed or revealed to the world the plight they are under. But Ellie Smith, the question is, the short-lived mutiny on Sunday actually forced the return home of the Minister Delegate at the Presidency in charge of Defense, Joseph Betty Asomo, who took some very tough measures. He had these boys flown to Yaoundé, locked up, and they're currently awaiting some kind of prosecution. Is that being too tough? Could it provoke more anger within the ranks?
Yeah, he's going to provoke more anger because one thing Paul Biya has done, he has tried to renew the army to rejuvenate the armed forces.
Which is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, but also a bad thing for a dictator like him, because those young men will not be like those old people that have been governing.
They think differently.
They think differently. And as Kejang said, do you think that a boy who is going to fight in the north of Cameroon, and the problem that we journalists of Cameroon have not done the very good investigations as Nigerian journalists are doing, because the way the people are fighting in Boko Haram, and they are doing very well, but sometimes they're not being well treated.
Okay.
So I think there is going to people around, the young boys who are now in the army, especially those who are now leading the army,
yes,
who are young, will not take those trash that their elder brothers or the older army generals that we had used to accept from Paul Biya.
If you don't mind, I'll take you over to Yaoundé now and back down the lanes of memory to revisit the occurrences of September 9, 2015. For 8 long months, they had been grumbling in vain for the disbursement of their allowances after risking their lives to instill relative tranquility in the war-torn Central African Republic. Then on Wednesday, 200 out of the contingent of 1,260 Cameroonian soldiers who recently returned from the peacekeeping mission lost their patience and took to the streets of Yaoundé in protests.
Aujourd'hui là, on nous divise déjà. Vous voyez ce que le gouvernement camerounais, je ne sais pas, est en train de faire. Ça fait 2 ans que je vois que on reste en paix.
A term government spokesperson Issa Chiroma Bakari announced at an emergency press briefing that President Biya had instructed the immediate disbursement from state coffers of 6 billion francs CFA to clear the arrears pending reimbursement by the African Union.
Assurances were then given to the Cameroonian mandatory that all measures were taken to.
Thanks very much for staying on with us. Well, you could understand that those images date from the 9th of September 2015, and so there's every reason to believe that they could have, been battered somehow by age and the conditions under which we stored them. Kejang Henry Atembe, you have one last quick take on that?
Yes, a last quick take is that you saw those guys marching on the street. Nobody had any weapon.
They actually packed their guns in the barracks before coming out.
And this quickly reminds me of something. There was a seminar, we've learned of a seminar that took place, or seminars used to take place out of the country where they go, to get some skills. But sometimes these old colonels and generals go there, they move along with the younger ones who are the ones doing the work. And the generals are sleeping in the seminar, the colonels sleep. And when the time comes for their, incidental or subsistence allowance, which we would like to put in here as per diem. Now, when these younger ones want their money, they will tell you, the generals will tell them, no, c'est la souveraineté. That is the
what does that mean?
Which means, but because of sovereignty, they will send the money back to Yaoundé, so they will come and collect the money. Which means that if you're entitled to something like 1 million francs, when you come back, the only thing you will be given as an incidental allowance or subsistence allowance would be something like 200,000 francs.
You should have incontrovertible proof.
Good.
Of
This
what
information is revealed by some of these guys who go out for training, for refresher courses and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And even the information that used to come from the MINUSCA guys, the way Cameroonian army was treated, is clear.
Okay.
And that is why
Henry.
we could not match with the other forces.
All right. I think we'll just have to do some fact checking to make sure that what you're saying is correct. Now, among others, the minister delegate at the presidency in charge of defense has prescribed frequent educative talks for some of these soldiers, especially those at the war front, because he suspects manipulation and he suspects an influx of misinformation. That's a tacit way, Lee Smith, of accepting the existence of an unresolved problem within the ranks of the army.
Yes, I think Mr. Betty as someone should judge. There's no reason to waste taxpayers' money in organizing talks or whatever. The thing is, if you are working for the multinational task force and your due is $1,200, you should be paying your $1,200.
Even if, like you said, the country is cash-strapped and heading towards being broke.
Now, let me explain to you. Now, there is a kind of distinction that has to be made. Those who are working for the multinational task force are taken care of by the multinational organizations such as African Union or the European Union or the United Nations.
Which no longer has any money.
Now, when they are broke, the thing is, as Kejang has said, the money which was transferred into the coffers of the Ministry of Defense or the Ministry of Finance, which was due to A or B, why don't you give them like that? If you don't pay them that way, they are still going to rise up because they are going to ask themselves, they don't want to be paid like a B soldier or a...
In other words, Cameroon could simply withdraw its troops from the multinational joint task force and you know, be free from paying them.
Exactly. Some countries are wiser. When they discover that there is a kind of economic crisis, they decide to withdraw simply because they know that they will not be able to respect the rules of the international community because we are cash-strapped. But the thing is that what is killing the armed forces of Cameroon is corruption. Because in this country, they can arrest all the civilians, what they call Operation Sparrowhawk, but I've not yet seen a general being arrested.
Okay.
Most of them are involved in a lot of corrupt practices that because they have weapons or they have arms, people are afraid to arrest them.
Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds for this. It's unheard of for Cameroon, which is a frontline actor in the war against Boko Haram, to pull back its forces?
No, it's not unheard of. Yes, you could pull back your forces, but then concentrate them in around the borders up north, try to manage the situation.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong in that.
Okay, I'll invite you gentlemen to come with me and let's take a coffee break. And here's a picture of the day. Okay, I want your comment. Starting with you, Lee Smith. That's some guy. He's probably a shepherd and he's wearing the uniform of the ruling CPDM party. And behind him, I don't know, it's a sheep, it's a goat or something.
It's a sheep.
That's a sheep.
So what does that inspire? your imagination?
It's wonderful. He means that those who are the member of the CPDMs are like sheep, so they have you can take them anywhere where you want them to go, and they will just sheepishly follow you. That's my interpretation of what he has done. He's quite an inspirational guy.
Probably the sheep is symbolic of some kilograms of fish or mackerel that will be dished out to some people to corrupt their minds to be able to vote the party. It's still symbolic towards that way, because giving out the people, I have a sheep for you, you vote me and then you pick it up. Why not?
And as we speak, there was a seminar recently in Bamenda, a kind of workshop to train senior militants of that party on leadership, on teamwork. Probably this is the kind of leadership we will see, probably goats and sheep parading for the natural CPDM candidate ahead of the elections in 2018, Lee Smith.
Yes.
Anything could happen.
Anything could happen because the CPDM is a party that has ruined Cameroon. For 34 years in power, they have been able to, they are constructing one bridge over the River Vuri that comparatively, when you look at a poor country like Mali, over the River Niger, they have 3 bridges and they're constructing a 4th. So they can hold 1 million seminars as they wish to, but they are incompetent, primitive in the way they are doing things, so there is nothing to expect from them. Hold their meetings, waste the country's resources when we don't have anything, so it's worthless.
Okay, so Henry, before you take a brief respite, you'll be coming back, but Gina is coming here because we have something trending. Of course, it all happened in Boya and Bamenda on Monday.
Good.
But before you go, one last take on the doors of Etudi. Will probably be seeing goats and sheep coming to visit.
Not well. If they come, they will not go back because nothing goes into the palace and come back. The sheep and goats and comes back. It will be slaughtered, maybe to feast after their victory, as it is.
They know how to they only know how to wine and dine. That's what the CPDM has done in Cameroon for 34 years.
Okay, let's take a break, and that's how we welcome Gina Leke on the panel this morning. So as you must by now know, the trial of prelates of the Catholic Church initially slated for June 5. That was Monday in Bamenda, the headquarters of the Northwest region, has been postponed to July the 24th. Well, the reasons are hinged on several, including the fact that lead counsel for the plaintiff, Barrister Achu Ngu Tabe Julius, has not been feeling well. But the question we're asking ourselves is, he should definitely have assistants who should have represented him at the courthouse in Bamenda Monday. Gina, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I'm actually talking about Bamenda, but it apparently was tough in Boya on Monday.
Exactly, Divine. Before we talk about the events of yesterday, I would like to remind our audience what transpired, the circumstances leading to yesterday. You remember on April 12, 2017,
yes.
The bishops of the Catholic Church were issued a summons, and they were being accused of several counts, some of which included the non-payment of salaries to teachers following the Anglophone crisis, which led to the shutdown of schools. So they were being accused of non-payment of salaries to their teachers, and the state was accusing them of depriving them of taxes. And also, they were being accused of, some say it's alleged they were accused of promoting what some call hate politics. I mean, in church,
yes.
They would preach, I mean, about the necessity to release some of the leaders of the Anglophone crisis that have been arrested. So yesterday, the case was supposed to hold on the 24th of April, but as we know by now, it was pushed to June 5th, which was yesterday, and yesterday it was drama in Boya.
Yes, can you kindly briefly explain what happened in Boya, for example?
Well, yesterday
I heard the Christians mobilized themselves.
Exactly. Yesterday, the moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, the Right Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, was summoned yesterday to the court of first instance in Boya. You remember, Divine, that the case against the PCC the church was dropped. But however, that for the moderator was maintained. So he was summoned, and the Christians of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon and other Christians rallied. We learned about 3,000 Christians made their way to the court of first instance. I would like to say, and
the right Reverend have actually wept.
Yes, exactly.
Why would he be crying?
No, I think it was a very emotional moment, because he told, when he was addressing the Christians, he told the Christians that he knows that they are not here for him,
a mammoth crowd comprising especially of Christians,
Christ, that Jesus Christ is the leader of the church. That, you know, dragging a man of God. I mean, it was an emotional moment for the Right Reverend, and seeing the number of Christians who came out to support him. And just like you said, the case was adjourned to July 24th.
So what do you expect could happen in the meantime? I
think there is a bit of confusion in the air, because this is not the first time they are going to be adjourning a case. Well, not precisely. Yesterday for the PCC was the first, but you remember for the Catholic bishop, it was supposed to hold sometime in April, but it was also pushed. I think that there is this kind of confusion because they are seeing the way Christians are mobilizing and standing behind their leaders, and people saying that it is like the kingdom of darkness standing up to the kingdom of light, which is the Church of Christ, taking bishops, you know, praised to court. It's something that we have not seen, but the fact that this is happening, I think that there's a bit of confusion at the level of the court, because they don't really know how they are going to judge these people. These men of God have said very clearly that they are not the ones who initiated the strike. So they should not be the one, they shouldn't be expecting them to say that, oh, parents, start sending your children back to school.
Okay.
They have been preaching reconciliation, no doubt, but they are not, they say they are not the ones who stand and say that things have to go back to normal. They're saying that the government has a lot to do, so they shouldn't put the blame on them.
Ellie Smith, I'll just come over to you with one quick one. I remember in April, the Archbishop to Bamenda, Cornelius Fontemeswa, said he wanted a speedy process so this thing could be done with and forgotten. But the consortium of, the so-called consortium of parents keeps on with the case in court. Do you see it like some do that it is a strategy to bargain? Because if the case is dropped, anything could happen. So in order to keep these men of God accountable, you need to leave the case pending.
Yes, it is true. I think that's the strategy of the government, because that consortium is a two-man consortium. One person has retracted himself.
Which means it's only one-man consortium now.
One-man consortium led by Julius Achu, who is a CPDM member, a proud, assertive one. I sat with him on a set at Canal 2 International with Carol Yemelon,
okay.
And he said he was a CPDM member. So that thing has no legitimacy. But on the other hand, I think that the government, if they had listened to Bishop Esua, tried to solve this problem in a rapid manner, we wouldn't have been going, or we would not have been where we are today.
Okay, Gina, so what's up next? The mobilization has come down. The skirmish was avoided in Boya.
Exactly, the population overpowered the police both in Boya and Bamenda, and we are looking forward to July.
No injuries, no arrests, nothing.
No, there were no arrests, because when the case, the entrances of the courts were blocked, but the Christians managed to make their way to the court because of the population, and you know, they were marching with peace plans, they were praying. We can also say that God was behind the movement of yesterday. So we are only looking forward to July 24th to see what is going to go down in the different courts of Bamenda and Boya.
And some say we can be envisaging another adjournment, Ellie.
It is going to be adjourned because, as I've said, I don't know, I have my own terminology or description to describe what is going on. Is that the government is out of touch with the reality. We have a group of arrogant, incompetent people around the government. We cannot always, because sometimes we should not try to seclude behind the whole thing, because people know it is beyond. No, he is presiding over this thing, and we have people who are so proud, and they forget to understand what is at stake is the future of Cameroon. There is not a matter of victor and a vanquished in such a dichotomy. And they began everything, and they also have to decide. They need to decide to stop it.
And you also mentioned Barrister Achu Julius.
Yes.
Well, some say he's placed his life and his name and the future of his family in the bad books of Anglophone Cameroon history.
I saw him the other day in Yaoundé. He lives at Montfebe.
He says the case in Bamenda was adjourned because he wasn't feeling very well.
He also needs to...
Is that a fake pretext?
It's a fake pretext. It's baseless. I think what he did, we are human beings.
He has assistance.
He has assistance, but I think that he made a mistake. If, you know, in life, humility warrants us to, at a certain point in time, concede that we made a mistake. He has been manipulated by the people of the CPDM. What the CPDM failed to understand, and some journalists fail to understand, is that this is a national movement of Anglophone Cameroon. Anglophone Cameroon have lost in this union through and through. And there are two things that Anglophones will not, for one instant, trade. It is the educational system and the judicial system.
Common law system.
Yeah, it will not ever happen.
Now, Gina Leke, and that's how we begin to move out of this other edition of Tough Talk. What will be trending? What do you suspect is supposed to be trending on Thursday?
Well, on Thursday, we'll see about that. You know, news items keep coming up. We cannot really tell. But there are so many things are going on. But on Thursday, we are going to pick the hottest topic that is really making news and discuss about it. I'm not a soothsayer or to predict what will be the hottest on Thursday. But definitely, our audience should know that by Thursday, what is making headlines, we are going to bring it on the slot trending and discuss with them. Yeah.
Thanks very much for coming. And so probably on Thursday we'll be discussing the opening of Parliament. The ordinary session for June, and the second for the year opens on the 8th. On June the 7th, which is tomorrow, well, the Higher Judicial Council meets at State House under the auspices of President Paul Biya. So we may pick some topics and trending points from some of these events.
The leaders of the outlawed Anglophone consortium
who may be released,
who will be in court on tomorrow, the 7th. So
we
don't know what is going to happen. There's going to be a lot of drama, especially as it's coinciding with the Judicial Council
conclave at State House at 8 today.
We have much to bring to you on Thursday.
Thanks to Kejan Henry, who was here before. Thanks, Ellie Smith, for coming.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Gina. And thanks to Emmanuel Bivika, who was on the cameras, Donald Gilo on the machines, and the entire production crew. We'll hook up with you again on Thursday. Meantime, the rebroadcast of this edition of Tough Talk at 8:30, 9:30 p.m. and, of course, at 10 o'clock tomorrow in the morning. Stay safe and run from trouble on the double always.